When I came in, I wasn't exactly sure at 26 years old how it worked and all that, but I learned very quickly of service above self and the tenets of Rotary and the 4 rules of Rotary and all that type of thing. I say it was a much smaller community then, therefore you could interact more and more was going on locally.
You know, you go back to these founders, those people, their children's, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren are still Rotarians.
In Visalia, there used to be a hotel downtown forever by the name of the Hotel Johnson.
And where is that hotel now? It's right where the Bank of America is.
Right where the Bank of America is. That's where they met when I came in and had met for many years and all that.
I mean, these people that were members that I recall, were all the pillars of the community. I mean, and they would lead by example, doing good things. And one of them is Carl Weiss. Carl was one of the founders of the Visalia Medical Clinic.
We met at the Hotel Johnson downtown, and it was a somewhat more raucous club than it is today. It was not uncommon on the 4th of July, always somebody would bring firecrackers and set them off in the room. This was a small community at the time. It had only about 25,000 people. And literally, everybody who was anybody in town was a member of the club. And all of them were there doing something for the community.
In 1987, the United States Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, said Rotary had to accept women. Best thing that ever happened to Rotary.
I can remember giving money to shelter boxes and thinking what an impact that makes across the world. Giving a wheelchair and taking somebody who was stuck in their home and now for the first time had mobility to get out into their village.
And we found a project in Angola, Africa. They had been in war for over 30 years. There were lots of women, lots of children, not a lot of men, and they lived on about, $275 a year. A simple potato, some fertilizer, and these potatoes that were bred for this area were root rot resistant, and 10,000 lives were changed.
Being at the International Convention is just an amazing experience when you're sitting in a hall with thousands of people, different races, different religions, all coming together to sponsor and to be a part of changing the world. Just having the common goal of helping others, I think just inspires me every day to be a better Rotarian.
The variety of things we've done, from water systems for small communities, to taking a fire truck to a city in Mexico that needed one, to painting a school in Mexico, to sending bicycles overseas. The number of things that we've done are countless, many of them every year. And there's a huge satisfaction in helping others.
When I came in, there was a push to eradicate polio. And the thing that I thought that was intriguing about it was that when we're going to vaccinate people, it wasn't people from Visalia going somewhere to vaccinate people. It was the people in India, in Pakistan that were Rotarians that were vaccinating their own people. And when I kind of understood that global reach that Rotary had, people that had like-mindedness of wanting to serve.
The reason I still stay in Rotary and I'm so committed to Rotary is that I think our country is losing a sense of community. And the sense of community, to me, means understanding that there's a common good and that we have a common responsibility to try to work toward promoting other people's well-being. Rotary does that.
Donating the bikes to Visalia Emergency Aid. And we get together as a big group of Rotarians, and we get to have fun hanging out, building bikes, some better than others. And then you go and we go participate in the actual giveaway right before Christmas. And you see, the inspirational moment was, you see these young children that you don't know. They're scared to death. I mean, most of them, especially if they're really young, they're really scared to be there. And who's this person wanting to take me with my mom and dad over, and show them a bike and have them choose their bike.
But if you give money to Rotary, that money goes directly to the people who need it.
The total of $60,000 we brought to FoodLink to start the Nutrition on the Go project, a program that didn't just give people food, but taught them how to fish, in essence.
And how to cook it.
And how to cook it, and how to taste it. These are farm workers that were harvesting food that they never tasted or cooked.
And that refrigerated truck that we got with the $60,000 was able to transport the fresh fruit and vegetables to that community.
The Nutrition on the Go project is still happening today, 20 years later. So we have impacted hundreds and hundreds of families over those years and made a difference in our communities, those little communities that didn't have support.
It's better to contribute than criticize, and it's better to contribute more than you criticize. And so if you look at the things that Rotary does, we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion, but we do talk community. How do we help each other? How do we help neighbors? How do we help friends? How do we help folks that are in our world? We planted 1,307 trees, and we planted them in the course of 4 hours with about 30 Rotarians and 25 Rotarians and a half a dozen Boy Scouts. We were able to do under-sink water filter systems so that the water that the people drank and cooked with could be nitrate and lead-free and potable. Our club also, 20 years ago, put $25,000 into the painting that's on the side of the Rotary Theater. We were very, very proud. It's a read for life type of message.
Voice in the back, very quiet. Didn't seem like a trouble kid at all. Raises his hand and said, "I did it." It took me a while to understand why he did it, but rather than just tear into him, I just sat down with him and I said, "Okay, let's talk a little bit. What prompted you to write this on this panel?" And he said, "Well, I'm not supposed to be here. I shouldn't be here." And I said, "Really? Well, why is that?" "Well, because I'm not like these kids." I said, "Well, how do you think these kids are?" "Oh, well, they're all a lot smarter than me." I said, "Do you know how you got to this camp?" He just started to cry. And I asked him what was wrong. The Rotarians believed in you. He said, "That anybody believed in me." And I said, "Well, I guarantee you, everybody in your group, when you stood up and took responsibility, they believe in you." And he just left that camp the next day and he gave me a hug.
Going to see those third graders, and some of them, this is the first book they've ever possessed, and they're running out to recess and not going to the jungle gym. They have their book in hand.
Some of the charities that we've supported locally, I can remember one time we had the band come in from Traver. Now you think, Visalia Breakfast Rotary, why would we support that? Well, there's a town that has nothing. We supported the chess club in Farmersville. We supported Goshen School. The kind of community support that Rotary has provided.
And I've always said many a times, if we're ever going to get close to achieving world peace in this world, it's through things like Rotary Youth Exchange. Those kids come and they see a different world. We go there and see a different world. I think those kids kind of open your hearts, and I think youth does that to us.
Youth exchange was an important thing to me in Rotary. It's hard to hate up close, and the whole part of the youth exchange program was having people from another country come here, and our folks from going to another country.
I remember we just got back from Scotland and we found a young man who was guarding the Queen's residence in Balmoral, and he's about 6'9", and we found out we were Rotarians, or I was a Rotarian. He just melted it, and he said, "Here, take this patch from my uniform, because Rotary changed my life as an international student."
My belief was if we got to $100,000 to help this community, we would be really doing well. Currently, we are up to almost $9 million. We give 4% of that away to the community. About half of it goes to scholarships, and the other half goes to the needs of the community.
when I see that and I look at what the foundation has done there, the organization and the people that are in the organization, they identify an unmet need, something that no other government agency, no other nonprofit is taking care of, identifying a need and figuring out a way to meet that need, or finding an organization that has an idea to meet that unmet need and supporting that organization. So having the resources to do that, it's just been a beautiful idea. One of the first organizations that the club supported was the Boy Scouts, that they gave a donation to the Boy Scouts. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, then we continued that on and we paid for moving the clubhouse down to Mooney's Grove. So we started a vocational scholarship. Hoot Macklin was very much involved in that, and Bob Harrell, and that now is giving out about $900,000, and it gives out like 50 scholarships a year.
My senior year in high school at Redwood, I was the president of the drama club, and my best friend and I wanted to do a production of Neil Simon's The Sunshine Boys. The Sunshine Boys had been made into a movie in 1975, and it fared very well. And we thought this would just be totally awesome to make as a play here at Redwood. And so we did what we were supposed to do. We went to our drama director and we told him what we were thinking. And he said, I know that piece of garbage, that will never play here at Redwood High School. And then we started having an idea, but where can we put the play on? See, if it wasn't sanctioned by the high school, then we could not use the L.J. Williams Theater. So then we remembered that beautiful little theater on the grounds of Sierra Vista. A theater that hadn't been used as a theater for a couple decades. It was built in 1937, but it had been decommissioned as a theater probably 25 or 30 years later, and it was actually the wood shop for Redwood High School. And as a senior at Redwood, I thought, oh, this is an abuse of such wonderful property. So my friend Mark and I, we approached the woodshop teacher at the time and we told him what we were aspiring to do. And he asked us, well, did you go through the proper channels and seek support from your teacher, the director of the drama department? And we said we did. And he asked, how did that go? And I said, well, he told us we couldn't do it. And that woodshop teacher looked me in the eye and said, all right, kid, you can have my theater. You just got to promise me that every Monday when I come back to school, it's going to look like a wood shop again. We had a theater, and as we assessed the theater, we realized we didn't have curtains, the chairs were run down, the stage was a little run down, it was going to take a lot of elbow grease. But we were committed to bring this comedy to Redwood High School, and indeed to our community, and to do it in this theater that, much like ourselves, had been cast away. Who else to bring this thing alive? And just 10 weeks later, we were presenting the Sunshine Boys on the stage at the Sierra Vista Theater, which is now known as the Rotary Theater. And we had this great production, but we opened the curtains on that first evening and we saw a handful of suits and ties in the very front row of this theater. And they laughed at all the funny parts and they were very interactive with us. And we had a crew of about 10 people. And I remember after the curtain closed at the end of the night, a handful of the people in our cast came up and said, Patrick, who are all those people in the suits? And I said, I have no idea. We didn't know they were Rotarians. And I think it struck the heartstrings of a handful of Rotarians who remembered that theater on the campus of Sierra Vista, who remembered the glory days of this beautiful little theater being used for community productions such as the one we were trying to do. We opened up the curtain and the first 3 rows were almost all suits. And we were really awestruck. Why are these adults taking such an interest in the lives of a handful of Redwood students trying to do the best we could do in an old rundown theater? And it was that second weekend when I was approached by one of these gentlemen and I was told that they were members of the Rotary Club of Visalia and that they did indeed remember the days when that theater had been used as a theater and that it was such a shame to see it being used as a wood shop, and that if they had their way, they'd like to see a glorious return of that little theater on the campus of Sierra Vista at Redwood High School. You two and this cast that you've assembled have shown us that this theater can come alive with just a little love and a little effort, and we can make that happen as Rotarians. And within 2 years, that theater was already in the hands of Rotarians and was already being refurbished and rejuvenated. The Rotary Theater has been standing, and it has been the home to many wonderful productions put on mostly by wonderful youth in this area. I knew I was a Rotarian after I made my first acquaintance with Rotarians the senior year of my high school education at Redwood High. I thought, these people take a little love and make it big. They take a little money and they make it a force multiplier. And any organization that can do that because of the commonalities that they have and the passions that they carry, that's something I want to become when I get older. That's why I'm a Rotarian. And that's why I love the fact that to this day, Rotary is supporting the beautiful Rotary Theater here in Visalia.
I learned very quickly that Rotarians were changing the local community, changing the broader community, and really changing the world.